My name is Mia. The day my marriage broke apart wasn't in silence, and it wasn't in private. It happened under the lights of a jewelry store, surrounded by strangers, when I watched another woman slide a diamond ring onto her finger. A ring bought with my savings. But it started 2 nights before. Mark, my husband, walked through the door later than usual. His tie hung loose, his shirt half-creased, but there was something in his eyes. Not exhaustion, not stress, something brighter. He kissed my cheek quickly and muttered, "Work's brutal. I had to stay late again. Clients. Deadlines." He said it like a man reading from a script. I nodded, playing along, though a dull ache spread in my stomach. I had heard variations of that line too many times. When he showered, his phone buzzed on the counter. Normally I ignored it. But that night my hand moved without permission. The preview glowed across the screen. "It's perfect. I can't wait to wear it tomorrow." My pulse quickened. I opened the message. Photos filled the thread, close-ups of rings on velvet, diamond bands glittering under showroom lights. A woman's hand modeling one of them. At the top of the thread, her name, Claire. The texts weren't vague. They were clear, shameless. "Did you wire the rest?" "Yes, I transferred it today. It's ours. I'll wear it for you the second I get it." I scrolled further. Screenshots of receipts. Bank transfers. My throat tightened. The numbers were too familiar. They were ours. He had drained money from the joint account. The nest egg I had spent years building for security for emergencies for us. Half of it was gone. I put the phone back exactly where it had been, wiping the screen with my sleeve as if my fingerprints could burn through the glass. In the shower, he hummed a tune. I stood frozen, staring at the bathroom door and thought, he thinks I'm blind. He thinks I'm weak. He doesn't know what I've seen. The next morning, I logged into our account. The confirmation was there in cold numbers. Thousands gone. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. At breakfast, he poured coffee with a smile. "I'll be late tonight too," he said. He added cream, stirred slowly, as though time itself belonged to him. I forced my lips into a calm line. "Of course." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You've been quiet lately." I met his eyes. "Just tired." He smirked faintly, satisfied with my answer. He thought the illusion held. He thought his mask was safe. He finished his coffee, kissed my cheek again and walked out the door. As soon as his car pulled away, I grabbed my keys and drove downtown. The jewelry district gleamed with glass storefronts, diamonds sparkling under spotlights. I parked a block away and walked fast, my heart pounding harder with each step. The largest store on the street was glowing with white light. I pushed the door open and froze. There he was. Mark. Standing tall, polished, alive in a way he hadn't looked at home in years. And beside him, Claire. Younger, laughing, brushing his arm with hers as if she had earned the right. The sales associate laid ring after ring on the counter. Claire tried them on, holding her hand up, admiring the way the light danced on her skin. "This one's too small," she giggled. "This one's too plain." "Oh, but this." Her voice caught as the associate slid a velvet box across the glass. Mark leaned closer. "That's the one." She slipped it onto her finger. The diamond caught the light, throwing sharp beams across the showroom. My stomach twisted. That sparkle wasn't romance. It was theft. It was my future sitting on her hand. I pressed against a column, watching unseen. My hands trembled, but not with despair. With resolve. With rage sharpened into something clean. Mark laughed, pulling out his card. "Wrap it," he told the associate. He looked at Claire like she was his entire world. I turned before they could see me, my breath burning in my chest. Outside, the city moved as though nothing had changed, but everything in me had. That night, he came home late again, smelling faintly of champagne. He kissed my cheek as if the day had been ordinary. He slid into bed beside me, breathing evenly within minutes. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I whispered silently so only I could hear. "You spent our savings on her ring. I'll buy my freedom with your shame." My eyes didn't close until dawn. In my mind, I saw only one thing. The diamond on her finger, glinting with my money. That wasn't the end of the story. That was the beginning of his fall. The morning after the jewelry store, I woke before Mark. His steady breathing filled the room, but it sounded different now. Not safe. Not familiar. Just noise. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake him, and went straight to my laptop. I logged into our joint account again. The number was smaller than yesterday. He had pulled even more. Not just the deposit for the ring, more transfers, more withdrawals. My stomach tightened as I scrolled through the list. Hotel stays. High-end dinners. Even a spa package in Claire's name. Every line was another cut. Every transaction proof that I was not his partner but his funding. I grabbed a notebook and began writing it all down. Dates, times, amounts. I wasn't just a wife betrayed anymore. I was a witness building a record. By the time Mark woke up, I was at the stove flipping pancakes for our daughter. He came into the kitchen smiling, stretching his arms like he owned the morning. "Smells good," he said casually. I forced a smile, plating the food. I thought we'd start the day right. He sat, kissed our daughter on the forehead, and poured syrup. "I'll be out late again," he said, almost bored with his own excuse. I nodded, sliding coffee across the table. "I figured." His eyes flicked up at me, sharp for just a second. "Figured what?" "That work is busy," I said evenly. I held his gaze steady and calm. He searched my face, looking for cracks but found none. He grunted and returned to his pancakes. Inside I was screaming, but outside I was ice. That afternoon when he left for work, I made my move. I dropped our daughter at Nora's, my sister's house, telling her I had errands. I didn't explain. Not yet. Downtown, I walked into the same jewelry store. The associate blinked in surprise. "Back again." I smiled faintly. "Just browsing." I kept my distance, but my eyes darted to the sales log on the counter. A receipt lay half-tucked under a clipboard. My heart pounded as I caught the numbers. Nearly 20,000. Paid in full. Mark's signature scrawled at the bottom. I left quickly, my hands shaking. Outside, I leaned against a brick wall and inhaled deeply. It was real. He hadn't just browsed with her. He had paid. The ring was hers. I snapped a photo of the receipt before walking away. Another piece from my growing folder. By evening, Mark came home late again. He looked tired, but it was the fake kind of tired, the kind where the smile lingered too long. He carried nothing in his hands, but I knew what he'd left behind. A diamond box in Claire's. "Sorry I'm late," he said, loosening his tie. "Things are crazy." I nodded slowly. "I understand." He kissed my cheek, his lips brushing mine without weight. "You always do," he whispered. Then he walked into the shower, humming. I stood frozen, my fists clenched at my sides. The water roared and I whispered into the air. "Not anymore." Later that night, I opened the safe in my closet. Inside, I placed the photo of the receipt, the bank statements, the notes I had made. I labeled the folder ring. The word looked sharp on the tab. Then I called Nora. Her voice was drowsy but concerned. "Mia? What's wrong?" "I need you to watch my daughter again tomorrow," I said. My voice was steady, calm. "Of course," she replied. "But why? What's happening?" I hesitated. Then I said, "I'll explain soon. But just know Mark isn't who you think he is. And tomorrow I'll have proof." After hanging up, I checked my email one last time. A new notification blinked. It was a bank alert. Mark had just pulled another 5,000. My jaw tightened. He wasn't slowing down. He was accelerating. And if I didn't stop him soon, there would be nothing left to save. Mark left before sunrise. He kissed my cheek, mumbled meetings, and walked out with his briefcase. I watched his taillights vanish. The door clicked. The house exhaled. I locked the deadbolt and went straight to the safe. I set everything on the dining table. Bank statements. The photo of the jewelry receipt. My notes. I needed more than numbers. I needed a trail no one could deny. I opened our banking app. New charges blinked at me. A high-end florist. A hotel near his office. A restaurant that books months in advance. I wrote each one down. Date. Time. Amount. I drew lines between entries until the page looked like a map. I called the florist. My voice was steady. "Hi, I'm confirming an order for Claire Bennett. Delivery today?" A friendly voice answered. "Let me check." "Yes. Large premium bouquet." White roses. A card is attached. What does the card say? I asked. She hesitated. We usually keep messages private. I am the payer, I said. I need to confirm the text is correct for accounting. A pause. Then gently it reads, for you always. M. I thanked her and hung up. The words went into my notebook. The date went into the folder. My hands shook only once. I let them shake. Then I kept working. At 9 I drove to Nora's. She opened the door in a robe, hair pulled back, eyes sharp. You sounded urgent. I sat at her kitchen table and slid the folder over. She read in silence. The receipts. The transfers. The florist note. The hotel list. I watched her face change from confusion to anger to something colder. She closed the folder. He used your savings. Our savings, I said. But most of it was mine. Mia, she said, voice firm. We are going to fix this. Start with more proof. Get names. Get invoices. Do not guess. Do not accuse. Document. I need you to take my daughter tonight, I said. I will be late. I will, she said. And Mia, call a lawyer. Today. I will, I said. After one more stop. I drove to the hotel near Mark's office. I took a breath before I walked in. The lobby smelled like polish and coffee. A young clerk looked up with a trained smile. Good morning, I said. I need a copy of an invoice. My husband stayed here for business and we need it for reimbursement. Name, he asked. Mark Reynolds, I said, sliding our joint card across the counter. I can verify the address. He typed. His eyes flicked to the screen. Do you need the most recent stay? He asked. Yes, I said. He printed a page and slid it to me. I thanked him, walked outside, and unfolded the paper in the sunlight. My chest tightened. 3 nights. 2 guests. The second guest listed by name. Claire Bennett. Room service charged to the room. Champagne. Late checkout. I took a photo. I sent the file to a secure drive. I added the paper to my folder and pressed the edges flat. The fear that had followed me for days shifted into focus. I returned home and spread the evidence across the table. I made sections. Banking. Retail. Hotel. Florist. I numbered the pages. I wrote a clean timeline. I read it out loud until the order made sense. I printed a second copy. I put that copy in Nora's hands when she stopped by at noon. Backup, I said. She nodded. Good. Now the lawyer. I called a firm a friend once mentioned. The receptionist listened, then connected me to an associate named Amelia Reed. Her voice was calm, clipped, direct. Tell me what you have, she said. I walked her through the folder. The savings pulled from our joint account. The jewelry store receipt. The hotel invoice naming Claire. The florist note. The restaurant reservations. The cash flow pattern. She did not gasp. She did not judge. You already have more than most, she said. Here is what you do this afternoon. Secure every document off-site. Photograph everything. Do not confront him. Do not tip him off. Tomorrow morning we can file an emergency motion to freeze accounts. If there is any risk of asset flight, we act fast. What about the ring? I asked. If you can prove marital funds purchased it, we list it, she said. As property. As leverage. I wrote every word. What if he empties the account tonight? Then we show the court the pattern, she said. Judges understand patterns. Do not warn him. Gather. We ended the call. I breathed once, long and slow. Then I moved faster. I scanned our home office. I checked his desk drawers, careful to leave every item exactly where I found it. I found a small envelope tucked beneath a tax file. Inside lay a jewelry insurance appraisal. The item number matched the receipt. The appraisal named the diamond weight and the price. It named the owner Mark Reynolds. It listed the address for shipping, Claire Bennett's condo. My throat burned. I took photos. Front, back, policy number. I placed the paper back in the envelope and slid it precisely where it had been. At 4, my phone pinged with a new bank alert. Another withdrawal. 1,000 this time. I wrote the time down and circled it. I added it to the timeline. The page looked crowded now. Crowded was good. I packed a go folder. The original papers went into plastic sleeves. The copies went into a second binder. The flash drive slid into a pocket sewn inside my tote. I placed a small recorder beside the binder. Not for a scene. For facts if he started talking. 6 Mark texted. Working late. Do not wait. I texted back one word. Okay. I stood by the window for a minute and watched the street. Cars moved. Neighbors walked their dogs. Ordinary life kept its pace while mine changed course. I drove to Nora's and kissed my daughter goodnight. I will see you in the morning, I said. She nodded sleepily and held my hand for one extra second. I walked out before my voice could break. Back home, I set the binder on the table and opened my laptop. I pulled the bank PDFs. I downloaded a full year. I ran a simple spreadsheet and sorted by merchant name. The pattern leapt out. The dinners matched the hotel nights. The florist orders matched the jewelry dates. The withdrawals spiked before weekends. I printed the chart and labeled it in block letters. Pattern of spend. At 9 I heard Mark's key at the door. I closed the laptop, slid the binder into the safe, and turned to face the kitchen as if I had been rinsing glasses. He walked in smelling like expensive whiskey. He smiled loose and easy. Long day? I asked. Too long, he said, kissing my cheek. You always understand. He headed for the shower. Water roared. I leaned on the counter and counted the tiles. I felt the weight of the folder behind the safe door. I felt the shift inside me from hope to proof. My phone buzzed. An email arrived. The subject line froze me. Reservation confirmation. I opened it. A restaurant I recognized. Elite. 2 seats for tomorrow night. A note to the host in the special request field. Private table. Dessert course arrival with ring presentation. I stared at the words until they steadied. He planned to propose tomorrow. He planned to do it with my money in public with applause. I forwarded the confirmation to Amelia with a single line. Tomorrow night. Then I whispered to the quiet house. You spent our savings on her ring. Tomorrow I will buy my freedom in front of your audience. The restaurant confirmation sat in my inbox like a loaded gun. Tomorrow night, dessert would arrive with a ring. He wanted an audience. He wanted applause. He had no idea the curtain would rise on a different show. I called Amelia first thing in the morning. Her voice was clear and steady. Mia, this changes everything. A public event means witnesses. If he presents a ring bought with marital funds to another woman, in front of strangers, it strengthens your case. She outlined the steps. Freeze accounts. Document the event. Do not interrupt. Do not shout. Hand over the evidence at the right moment. You want silence to follow him, not chaos. I took notes, each line written in block letters. Freeze. Document. Silence. Next I called Nora. I need you with me tomorrow night. Tell me when and where, she said without hesitation. At noon Lena, my closest friend, met me downtown. I laid out the timeline on the cafe table. Receipts, invoices, the appraisal, the florist notes, the hotel bills. Her eyes widened with each page. Mia, she whispered. This is airtight. You're building a case like a detective. I have to, I said. If I let him control the story, I lose everything. She leaned closer. So what's the plan? I exhaled slowly. He'll try to propose to her tomorrow. I'll be there. And when he lifts the glass, when everyone claps, I'll drop the truth. Lena nodded, fire in her eyes. I'll record it. Every second. That afternoon, Amelia filed the emergency motion. I drove to the courthouse with her, my folder pressed to my chest. We handed the documents over. She spoke with calm authority to the clerk. Ongoing fraudulent transfers, immediate risk of depletion, request for freeze. By late evening we had a signed order. The accounts were frozen. His card would work until it didn't. The timing was cruel, precise, perfect. That night I sat with Nora and Lena at my dining table. Papers spread everywhere. Nora highlighted dates. Lena rehearsed holding her phone steady. Amelia joined by video call, her tone sharp. You three will be my eyes. Mason, the investigator, will sit at another table near Mark's. He'll capture the moment from another angle. Multiple perspectives. No escape. I looked at the folder one more time. It had grown heavy. Bank logs. Receipts. Hotel invoices. Florist confirmations. insurance appraisals, the restaurant booking. It was no longer just paper. It was a weapon. Tomorrow, I said, we don't fight with screams. We fight with proof. Nora looked at me, her expression both proud and worried. He'll be furious, Mia. When the mask falls, men like him don't go quietly. I nodded. I'm not afraid of his noise anymore. The next morning I practiced. I clipped the recorder to my jacket. I rehearsed sliding the folder across a table without trembling. I practiced the words I might say if I had to speak. Calm, clear, sharp. Not rage. Not grief. Just truth. By afternoon, Mason called with a final update. I tracked his spending again. He tried to charge the restaurant deposit to his card. It bounced. He scrambled and used cash. He doesn't know his accounts are frozen yet. He'll find out tomorrow. That night, Mark came home whistling. He poured himself a drink, loosened his tie, and smiled at me like a man living in two worlds. Don't wait up tomorrow, he said casually. I smiled faintly. I won't. Inside, my chest burned with a steady fire. After he went to bed, I stood at the window, phone in hand. The city lights glowed in the distance. Tomorrow, his lies would collapse in front of strangers. Tomorrow, the woman he crowned with my money would watch his crown fall. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed with a new alert. A message from Amelia. Mia, be prepared. He may not make it to dessert. If he realizes the freeze early, he might erupt the moment the card fails. Stay steady. We'll adapt. We had the freeze order. That was the first cut. Now we built the rest. We needed a plan that left him no corner to hide in. We needed a net. We needed timing. We needed silence until the moment the truth had to speak. Amelia called it a surgical strike. She used calm words. She liked lists. She liked checkboxes. I wrote them down. First, secure evidence offsite. Copies, backups, cloud storage. Redundancy. No single point of failure. Second, witnesses. Not strangers. People who would not be swayed. Nor at my left. Lena to my right. Mason a short distance away with his camera. Amelia on call. Third, the presentation. Public. Quiet. Precise. I would not shout. I would not beg. I would show. Fourth, contingencies. He might try to pay cash. He might storm out. He might call security. He might try to buy silence with threats. We prepared for each version. We met at my house at noon. The table looked like an evidence room. Receipts in clear sleeves. Hotel invoices with names circled. Bank statements flagged. The appraisal with Claire's shipping address. Amelia laid them out like cards at a trial. You do not attack him in private, she said. You do not give him the scene. You give him the record. He will try to make noise. The record will be louder. Nora touched my hand. We are steady. We are slow. He will crack first. Lena tested the angle on her phone. I will get his face. I will get her face. I will get the moment. She smiled, but her eyes were hard. Mason showed me the restaurant layout. He had visited earlier. He knew the staff. He knew which cameras pointed where. He pointed out the vantage points. He circled the host stand. He marked the entrance. He noted a side door where private guests sometimes slipped in. Do not follow him if he sneaks in there, Amelia warned. Let him think he can avoid witnesses. If he avoids the crowd, he loses the stage. We will adapt. I asked about the ring itself. Amelia said, if it is marital property, it is an asset. We place it in the file. We ask the court to treat it accordingly. If it is not yet delivered, we ask for notice. If it is presented in public, it becomes evidence. I felt the weight of the folder in my lap. It felt heavy and honest. We rehearsed the motion. We rehearsed my face. I practiced breathing. I practiced a slow draw of the folder, the way I would set it on the table, the way I would open it. Calm. Clear. Short sentences. Say only facts. Do not cry. Do not attack. Mason tested the recorder clip to my jacket. It fit like a small promise. He whispered, it will catch his words if he speaks. Keep it near the collarbone. Make it steady. Amelia made one more rule. No social media. No leaks. No spoilers. If this becomes noise, he will hide in the noise. Our power is the moment and the record. The next morning I packed like a soldier. 2 outfits. 1 plain coat for arrival. 1 smarter dress for the confrontation if it came to that. Flats for standing. A small clutch for the folder. The recorder sewn in. A backup battery. My phone on airplane mode except for Mason's number and Amelia's line. Nora called me as I left the house. I will stand by the hostess, she said. Do not flinch. Do not react until I cue you. Lena sent a voice note. I will be in the crowd. Camera ready. 2 backups. If he moves, we move. Mason texted a pin with coordinates and a time. He added, I am seated at the bar. I will be ready. Amelia's final note came at noon. If he pays cash, do not try to stop him from leaving. Let him show his hand. If he tries to escalate, call me. If he tries to touch you, yell for the manager and point to the freeze order. We arrived early. The restaurant smelled of butter and lemon. The staff was polished. The maitre d' greeted us with a smile. He slid us into a corner table where we could see the entrance and the main dining room. It was the perfect place to watch. People flowed in. Couples. Small parties. Soft music. Glasses clinked. The world ate. The regular rhythm of life blurred the sharp shape of our plan. I had the folder under the table. The sleeves made a soft rustle when I moved. I kept my hands folded on my lap. I breathed in and out. At 7:45, Mason sent a small message. Movement at curb. He sent a photo of a black car pulling up. My stomach dipped. I breathed again. Nora placed her hand over mine. She squeezed once. Lena lifted her phone and aimed. Amelia's line flashed on my screen, a black name. She did not speak. She never needed to. The host walked past with a tray. He paused at another table. He smiled. He asked the patrons if they required anything. My pulse kept time with the clink of cutlery. Then my phone buzzed. Mason's message read, 2 men stepping out. Not him. Clean suits. No sign of Mark yet. I relaxed a fraction. Then Mason added another line. But he is not alone. My chest tightened. I looked up. The restaurant felt smaller. The air felt thin. I tasted metal. I felt the unfinished arc of a story hinge. Mason's voice came through my ear, low and urgent. Mia. He is at the rear entrance. With someone from his office. They are carrying a small velvet box. He is moving fast. Be ready. The restaurant lights glowed warm, but my skin felt cold. Mason's voice in my earpiece was steady but sharp. Mia, he's coming in through the rear entrance. He's not alone. He's carrying the ring box. This is happening now. Nora shifted in her seat, lowering her wineglass. Lena raised her phone, her eyes narrowing, her finger poised over the record button. The hum of conversation around us carried on as if nothing were wrong. My fingers tightened on the folder in my lap. I whispered, barely audible, I'm ready. Then I saw him. Mark entered from the side corridor, straightening his suit jacket like a man preparing to step on stage. Claire followed close behind, radiant in a red dress, her hand resting lightly on his arm. A host escorted them to the best table in the room, centered, visible, a stage disguised as fine dining. The velvet box rested on the table before he even sat down. Claire's eyes flicked to it again and again, her smile wide, greedy, expectant. My chest tightened. He had used my money for this spectacle. He wanted the world to applaud him for robbing me. Nora's hand touched mine under the table. Not yet, she whispered. I nodded. Patience was the weapon. The waiter poured wine. Mark leaned toward Claire, his hand brushing hers, his smile polished for the audience. He raised his glass. To new beginnings, he said, his voice carrying just enough for nearby tables to hear. Claire laughed softly. To us. The first course arrived. Then the second. Every move was rehearsed. He looked like a man in control, like he had pulled it off. Then the pivot came. When the check was presented discreetly by the waiter, Mark slid his card inside with a confident flourish. He returned to his seat, whispering something to Claire. She laughed, unaware. The waiter returned minutes later, eyes nervous. He bent low and whispered to Mark. Mark's smile froze. He frowned, waved the waiter away, pulled out another card. A minute later, the waiter returned again, this time with more firmness. "Sir, I'm sorry, but this card is also declined." Mark's neck flushed crimson. He glanced quickly around the room, forcing a smile. He leaned in close to Claire, whispering harshly. She blinked, confused. I felt my heart pound. Amelia's warning replayed in my mind. If the freeze hits before the ring, he might explode. And he did. Mark shoved back his chair, standing abruptly. "This is absurd," he snapped at the waiter. "Run it again. I have more money than anyone here." Conversations hushed around the room. Heads turned. Claire's smile faltered. The waiter held his ground. "Sir, the system shows the accounts are frozen. There's nothing I can do." Mark slammed his fist against the table. The velvet box rattled. "This is a mistake." Claire stared at him wide-eyed. "Mark, what's happening?" He ignored her. He pulled a wad of cash from his pocket and shoved it at the waiter. "Here. Take this. Cover the bill. Now leave me alone." The waiter hesitated, then slowly nodded, retreating. The room buzzed with whispers. Mark turned back to Claire, trying to compose himself. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Everything's fine." But the mask was cracked. His voice shook. His hands trembled. Nora leaned in close to me. "He's unraveling. This is it." I stood slowly, my chair scraping softly against the polished floor. The folder in my hands felt like a blade. My legs carried me forward, each step deliberate, steady, unshakable. Claire's eyes widened when she saw me. The color drained from her face. She whispered, "Who is she?" Mark turned. His eyes met mine. Shock flickered, then fury. "Mia." His voice dropped to a growl. "What are you doing here?" The restaurant went silent. The only sound was the faint clink of glassware, the low hum of the city outside. Every head turned. Every phone lifted. The stage he had chosen for his triumph had become the stage for his collapse. I placed the folder on his table, directly beside the velvet box. My voice was steady, clear, sharp. "You spent our savings on her ring. Tonight you will pay with the truth." Mark's hand shot out, gripping the folder. His voice rose, desperate, frantic. "You don't know what you're doing, Mia. Put this away. Right now." His eyes darted around the room, but there was no escape. The audience was already watching, waiting for the curtain to fall. Mark's hand clamped down on the folder like it was the last lifeline he had. His knuckles whitened. His voice dropped to a hiss, but the tension in the room carried his words. "Mia, sit down. You're making a fool of yourself." I didn't move. My hand stayed steady. I lifted the folder slowly, opened it, and slid the first page across the white linen. "This is the wire transfer. 10,000 pulled from our savings the day before you walked into the jewelry store with her." Whispers rippled through the restaurant. Claire leaned closer, her face pale. "Mark, is that true?" He barked a laugh, harsh and hollow. "She's lying. These are forged." I laid down the next page. "Here's the hotel invoice. 3 nights. Champagne. 2 guests. One of them registered as Claire Bennett." Gasps now. Diners leaned forward in their seats. Phones recorded every angle. Claire's lips parted. "You used your real name?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Mark shot her a glare sharp enough to cut steel. "Don't speak." I placed the third sheet in front of him. The appraisal, with his signature at the bottom. "Here's the insurance policy for the ring. Paid with our money. Shipped to her condo. You called it a gift. I call it theft." Mark's face turned crimson. His jaw tightened. He reached out to sweep the papers off the table, but Nora stepped forward. Her voice cut like glass. "Touch that, and the whole restaurant will see you try to erase the truth." He froze. Claire's chair scraped back. She pushed herself to her feet. "Mark, you told me you paid with your own bonus. You said you had plenty." Her voice shook. "Was any of it real?" Mark lunged toward her, his hand outstretched. "Sit down. Do not embarrass me." But she stepped back, eyes brimming with tears. "You embarrassed yourself." The room erupted in murmurs. Diners whispered, "That's his wife, and she has proof. And look at him." I pulled the final page from the folder and placed it gently on the table. It was the restaurant confirmation, the one with the note. Dessert course arrival with ring presentation. I leaned closer, my voice carrying across the silence. You wanted applause tonight, Mark. You wanted everyone to see you crown her with my savings. Now they see the truth instead. The waiter, standing frozen nearby, glanced nervously at the scene. Mason from across the room kept his camera steady. Lena's phone never wavered. Every second was locked in evidence. Mark tried one last time, his voice rising into a roar. None of this matters. She's bitter. She's pathetic. She can't accept that I moved on. But the words didn't land. Not one person in the room looked convinced. Claire turned, shaking her head, and pushed away from the table. Her red dress shimmered as she stormed toward the exit. You disgust me. The velvet box sat abandoned on the linen, unopened, silent. Mark's hands shook. His shoulders heaved. He looked around the room, searching for someone, anyone to back him. But all he saw were strangers' eyes, cold and sharp, reflecting his downfall back at him. I gathered the papers into the folder, snapped it shut, and straightened my shoulders. You thought you could spin my future on her finger. Instead, you bought your own shame. The silence was absolute. The kind of silence that roared. Just then my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Amelia flashed across the screen. Police notified. They'll want him held until morning. I looked at Mark, trembling, cornered, eyes burning. His night of applause had turned into a night of reckoning. The moment Amelia's message lit my screen, the restaurant felt like a stage collapsing around him. Mark stood frozen, fists clenched, his chest rising and falling with quick, shallow breaths. Claire was already gone, the door swinging shut behind her red dress. The velvet ring box still sat unopened on the white linen, the symbol of his betrayal, abandoned like scraps. The silence broke in waves. Diners whispered, some lifted their phones higher. Others pointed at the folder on the table. A man at a nearby booth muttered, "That's fraud right there." Another whispered, "She has everything in writing." Mark slammed both hands on the table. Enough. His voice cracked, booming through the room. Glasses rattled. Conversations died instantly. His mask was gone. He turned to me, his face twisted. "Mia, you think this makes you powerful? You think humiliating me in front of strangers will change anything? You are nothing without me." I didn't move. I let his words hang heavy and hollow. The crowd wasn't siding with him. They were watching him unravel. Then the manager approached, two security staff close behind. His voice was professional but firm. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down. Guests are uncomfortable." Mark's laugh was bitter. "Uncomfortable? This is my private business." He pointed at me, shaking. "She doesn't belong here. Throw her out." The manager didn't even glance at me. His eyes stayed on Mark. "Sir, your behavior is unacceptable. If you cannot calm yourself, we will have to remove you." Murmurs spread. Phones caught every word. Nora stood now, her voice sharp and clear. "Remove him. He's the one disrupting the peace. He's the one spending stolen money." Lena stepped closer, her phone raised. "Every second is recorded. Every threat. Every lie. It's all here." Mark lunged toward me, his hand reaching for the folder. "Give it to me. Now." Security blocked him instantly, arms firm against his chest. He struggled, shouting, "This is mine. She has no right. No right." The manager's jaw tightened. "Sir, please sit down or leave immediately." Mark twisted, eyes darting. He saw Mason filming from across the room. His voice rose, desperate. "Turn that off. Turn it off right now." But Mason didn't move. Calm, steady, lens fixed. Then came the final blow. Red and blue lights flashed through the restaurant windows. Gasps echoed. A police officer stepped inside. Another close behind. The crowd parted like water. The lead officer spoke evenly. "Mark Reynolds." Mark froze, his face draining of color. "What is this?" "You're being detained for questioning related to financial fraud and asset concealment," the officer said. His tone was calm, but the weight was undeniable. Mark stammered, his voice weak now. "This is a mistake. I'm a respected." "Sir, you need to come with us." The security staff stepped aside. The officers took their place. Mark resisted for a moment, his shoulders stiff, But the sight of the cuffs ended his fight. Gasps rippled again as cold metal clicked around his wrists. Phones captured every angle. Strangers whispered, "That's justice." As they let him out, he turned his head, his eyes locking onto mine. Rage, disbelief, and something else, fear. His voice cracked as he spat. "This isn't over, Mia. You'll regret this." The officer guided him firmly toward the door. "That's enough, sir." And then he was gone. The restaurant buzzed like a hive, people murmuring, phones buzzing with messages. The manager turned to me, his face softening. "Ma'am, do you need anything? Water? A private space?" I shook my head. My voice came steady, clear. "No. I have everything I need." As Nora and Lena guided me toward the exit, Mason caught up, his phone still recording. He leaned close and whispered, "Mia, the media is already on it. The story's spreading. Tomorrow won't be quiet." I didn't sleep that night. The image of Mark being let out in cuffs replayed in my head again and again like a film on a loop. His words echoed too. "You'll regret this." But when the sun rose, regret never came. Only clarity. My phone started buzzing before 6. Nora was already awake, sitting at my kitchen counter with a mug of coffee. She looked at me over the rim. "Brace yourself." Headlines covered the screen. Executive arrested at upscale restaurant. Affair, fraud, and frozen accounts. Public showdown captured on video. Clips of last night had gone viral. Mason's footage alone had already hit hundreds of thousands of views. The comments were ruthless. People were dissecting every expression, every word. At 7, Amelia called. Her voice was brisk, confident. "Mia, the DA's office has scheduled an interview. They want to use your documents. You will not be testifying alone. Nora and Lena's footage strengthens the case. Mason's video is a gift." He buried himself in front of witnesses. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "What happens now?" "He'll spend at least 48 hours in holding while they process charges," she explained. "Fraud, marital asset concealment, possible perjury." The freeze order worked. The accounts remain locked. I exhaled slowly. The relief was sharp, almost painful. At 8, my daughter padded into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. She looked at me confused. "Mom, why is your face on the TV?" I turned. There it was, my image on a morning news program. The anchor narrated over the footage of me placing the folder on Mark's table. My voice played clear through the speakers. "You spent our savings on her ring. Tonight you will pay with the truth." I muted the screen. "Sweetheart, I had to tell the truth about something Daddy did. That's all." She nodded slowly, still waking up, still too young to understand the weight. But she came to me, hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm proud of you." By mid-morning, reporters were outside the house. Nora handled them at the door. "No comment," she repeated firmly. "Please respect her privacy." Cameras flashed anyway. Lena texted me updates. "The video is everywhere. People are calling you brave. They're calling him a fraud. He's finished." At noon, Amelia arrived in person. She spread new papers across my dining table. "The judge granted you temporary sole custody. With everything documented, it's highly unlikely he'll contest. His credibility is gone." Nora let out a sharp laugh. "He mocked Mia for being quiet, for being patient. And that patience is exactly what destroyed him." Amelia added more. "His company stock fell 12% this morning. The board is already calling emergency meetings. He may lose his seat before trial even begins." The words sank in slowly. For years, Mark had built his life around power, suits, appearances. And now it was all unraveling faster than I could process. But it wasn't just victory. The storm carried debris. Strangers sent me messages, some supportive, others cruel. "Gold digger," one subject line read. Another called me a liar. I deleted them all. The people who mattered knew the truth. The rest were noise. That evening, Nora poured wine for the two of us. She lifted her glass. "To freedom." I tapped mine against hers. The sound was sharp, clear. "To truth." As the sun set, Amelia's phone buzzed. She read the message, then looked at me. "Mia, his lawyer just reached out. He wants to negotiate a settlement. Tomorrow morning. He's desperate." The morning came gray and cold. Amelia sat across from me at her office, the settlement proposal open on her desk. Pages filled with legal language, numbers, and Mark's desperate attempts at control. He was offering me the house, the car, and half the remaining assets in exchange for silence. He wanted me to drop charges to close the case quietly. He wanted me to help him rebuild the mask. I read each line slowly. Then I pushed the papers back. "No," I said. Amelia's eyes narrowed slightly, then softened. "I thought you might say that. It strengthens our position." By mid-morning we walked into the courthouse. Mark was already there, flanked by his lawyer. He looked smaller. His suit sagged. His eyes darted around the hall, no longer with confidence but with fear. When he saw me, his lips tightened. "Mia," he muttered just loud enough. "We don't have to do this." I met his gaze. My voice was steady. "We already did." The hearing was swift. The judge reviewed the freeze order, the evidence, the footage. Claire's sworn statement had been filed overnight. She had given investigators every message, every receipt he sent her. The verdict came like a hammer. Fraud confirmed. Assets divided with priority to me and our daughter. Custody secured. His accounts locked pending further trial. Mark sagged in his chair, staring at the floor. His lawyer whispered frantically, but he barely moved. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Microphones shoved forward. Questions flew. "Mia, how does it feel to win? Mia, what would you say to other women betrayed like this?" I paused, the cold air sharp in my lungs. Then I said simply, "The truth is enough. Always." Nora and Lena flanked me as we walked away, cameras flashing behind us. Amelia's hand brushed my shoulder, grounding me. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my daughter. We shared takeout pizza, her favorite. She giggled at a cartoon on her tablet, crumbs on her shirt. For the first time in years I felt peace. She looked up and asked, "Mom, are we safe now?" I smiled, pulling her close. "Yes, we're safe. And free." Later, when she was asleep, I stood by the window. The city glowed outside. I thought about the woman who once ignored the late nights, who trusted too blindly, who believed silence kept the peace. That woman was gone. Mark thought he could crown someone else with my money, thought he could strip me of dignity, thought he could bury me under shame. Instead, he drowned in the evidence of his own lies. I bought my freedom not with rage, not with violence, but with patience and proof. And in the end, his shame paid the price. To anyone listening, betrayal cuts deep, but silence is not surrender. If you've been mocked, dismissed, or betrayed, remember Mia. Remember the woman who built her case in quiet, who let the truth speak when lies screamed louder. Revenge doesn't need fists. It needs patience, evidence, and courage. If this story moved you, share it. Subscribe for more stories of betrayal and justice. And remember, when someone spends your trust like money, don't fight with rage. Fight with truth. Truth will always win.